We shall now go on to our next speaker, Dr. Vinod Agarwal, Assistant Professor, VR Services at RP Center, New Delhi. And he is going to talk on another interesting topic, lamellar hole epiretinal for epiretinal proliferation and omega sign. On to you, doctor.
Thank you, ma'am, for nice introduction and kind words. Dr. Srinivas, can I make a small comment about the previous?
Yeah, that's what I was able to tell you. So once you finish your presentation, you can take both the things together.
No, I will forget then.
Okay. Go ahead.
So basically, a very nice talk, Dr. Sahu. So one thing you talked about that how ectopic inner foveal layers are protective against the central bouquet abnormalities. Now one has to understand here very clearly that while in ectopic inner foveal layers, the basic abnormality is that there is centripetal contraction. So there is force towards the center of the fovea. While in the central bouquet abnormalities, the traction is in the anterior-posterior direction or the centrifugal force. So that is why once one kind of force is happening, the other kind of abnormalities wouldn't occur. So that is what my understanding is there on the topic. So I guess the same thing has been said in the literature, but little more in a complicated way.
So on to you, Dr.
I'll start my talk. I try to keep it very simple because I know by the end of it, the things in OCT really becomes complicated at times. So I'll be talking about lamellar hole associated epiretinal proliferation. Now, this is a clinical entity which is seen only on OCT. When I say only on OCT, I want to differentiate here it from the conventional epiretinal membranes, which are seen clinically as well. Now, what is LHEP? Basically, it is nothing, but it is a material of homogeneous medium reflectivity, which is located on the epiretinal surface, and it usually surrounds the lamellar macular holes. Now, one thing, it has been very clearly shown in literature that in the absence of defect of the inner retina, this LHEP is usually not seen. Now, as compared to the conventional ERMs, the LHEP or this particular entry is non-contractile. So when we say non-contractile, that means there will be no edema, retinal edema and cyst, though at times you can see degenerative cysts inside the edges of the lamellar hole. Now, usually they are at the surface of the retina, but at times they go and are in continuation with the middle layers of the retina. And sometimes they will even go and fill the base of the hole. And they, in the initial description by Pang et al., the authors hypothesized that these are basically due to, LHEP is basically due to proliferation of the middle retinal layers or Muller cells. And they found that though they labeled it a lamellar macular hole associated proliferation and found it in 30% of the cases of lamellar hole, they reported it simultaneously in cases with full thickness macular holes as well. Now, just to mention here and not to discredit any of the previous authors which have identified it, we must remember that while Pang et al. Were the first to characterize it lucidly, many other authors have described it before. The first description was in Ophthalmology in 2006, where the author described that many of the ERMs in their patients of lamellar macular holes were unusually thick on ultra-high resolution OCT. Later on, Michael Kowalska et al. Noted that these dense non-contractile membranes were present in their series as well, and they were similar to the thick membranes noted by the previous authors. And later on, another set of authors reported that these thicker, denser ERMs do not have any temporal relationship with the normal ERMs, and they suggested that these two type of ERMs, that is LHEP, which is called now, and the normal ERMs tend to have a different pathogenesis. Now, as I mentioned before, these are mainly present on the surface of the retina, but at times, as you can see, they go into the edges of the hole and they are continuous with the middle layers of the retina. At times, they even go on to fill the base of the hole, and they look like it. They make the whole architecture look like a normal foveal contour. But remember, this is all homogeneous material, which is LHAP, and actually the whole retinal tissue is very thinned out. Now, just to give you an example how they look different from the normal ERM, this is how a normal ERM would look like, but there's no homogeneous tissue between the retina and the ERM. Now, as I mentioned, they were earlier described in association with lamellar holes, but of late they have been described in variety of conditions, including FEVR, PVEC, even associated with normal ERMs. Sadda et al. Recently reported that they can be seen in other variety of conditions, including ARMD, diabetic retinopathy, venous occlusions. And one very important condition they noted, that the patients who have history of macular peeling also showed some amount of LHAP. This shows that LHAP may actually be a reparative response to the macular damage. Now, what are the implications of this term, that is LHAP? Now, our recent study noted that eyes with lamellar macular hole and LHAP tend to have poorer visual acuity. They have larger lamellar macular hole diameters. They tend to have thinner retinal thicknesses inside the hole, and they have higher incidence of ellipsoid disruptions. And this is when they compared their eyes with lamellar macular holes with LHAP to the eyes without LHAP. Now, what happens to LHAP over a period of time? Some authors have shown that area of LHAP does increase with time, and this is associated with enlargement of the hole and area of EZ loss. But clinically, it may not be very significant. And most of these studies have shown that lamellar macular holes with or without LHAP tend to remain stable over large periods of time. Now, to sum it up, the clinical significance of LHAP is that even in lamellar macular holes, where there is no LHAP, there is doubtful role of the surgery. While many eyes improve, up to 20% of the eyes with LMH without LHAP may go on to lose some amount of vision. So when I say that, the eyes with lamellar macular hole and LHAP actually tend to do much worse. And the consensus is that whenever we treat patients with lamellar macular hole and LHAP, we do not have to peel off the LHAP completely. And whenever we operate them, we must add ILM peeling or inverted flap. This was my first part of the talk. Second part is something called omega sign, which was described by us only from RP Center. This is about a condition called combined hematoma of retina and retinal pigment epithelium, which is nothing but a rare solitary unilateral and benign lesion. It is usually present in young patients who present with decrease of vision, and it tends to have three components. One is the epiretinal component, vascular component, and an intraretinal or RPE component. Now, in a particular patients, either of these components can be predominant, and they can be in varying proportions. And Gass in their original paper described that these combined hematomas can be of two varieties, one which occupy the disc and the one which involve the macula primarily. Now, macular CHRPs, it's not an uncommon lesion.
1 minute remaining, sir.
Yeah, especially in a practice like ours, we get a lot of referred cases. So ERM is a very frequent differentiate, and FFA is not a good tool to differentiate ERM from combined hematoma because FA is not able to assess the intraretinal component. OCT may be useful, as many signs like MEXI and mini peaks have been described, as you can see here, but they may not be there in all the cases, and these peaks can be present in patients with ERM. Now, ERM peeling has become a common procedure, especially in MIVS era. So many people tend to operate these patients, but results may be poor because at times epiretinal component is integrated with the intraretinal component in these combined hematomas. So we described this particular sign with which we can distinguish combined hematomas from ERMs. So as you can see, this is a patient with macular CHRRP, and when you do the OCT of these patients, we can see this omega shaped alignment of the inner retinal layers, which is bounded by the outer plexiform layer. So we saw this in a variety of patients, and we described this particular condition. As you can see, most of these patients would have omega-shaped infiltration of the inner retina. But of late, we have realized that a similar situation can sometimes be seen in secondary ARMs, which can behave like CHR, combined hematomas. So this is a patient who has undergone a buckling surgery, had a secondary ARM, and is showing something which looks like a combined hematoma. So to conclude, LHAP basically signifies degenerative lamellar macular hole and a relatively poor prognosis. Omega sign indicates towards the diagnosis of combined hematoma. And whenever we take on peeling in these particular patients, we should be very careful. And subtle clinical signs like these can help us in better decision-making in our day-to-day practice. Thank you very much.
Oh, that was a wonderful talk again. I'm going to ask a very simple question before Srinivas takes on. What is the significance of this glutamine synthetase enzyme in the histopathology of LHEP? What does it?
I think a lot of histopathological studies have been done, but I am not aware of this particular enzyme. Dr. Srinivas?
No, not me. I am also not aware of this.
I think glutamine synthetase is something that identifies myofibrils and myocytes. So it can differentiate between the contractility part. So when ARMs are removed, that is where the first diagnosis of this non-contractile element sitting on top of the retina came into being. So any myocyte or myofibrillin can be detected by the enzyme. So that is when the fact that the LHEP could be a consequence of a degenerative process and not the process that starts the tractional element came into concept here. The presence of the absence of fibrillary or myofibrillary elements.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a question.
But one thing I just wanted to ask Uni sir, we all know that ERM contains more of myofibroblasts and LHEP contains the glial cells, hyalocytes and the fibroblasts. And though it has been described that the LHEP doesn't have that much of contractile property as compared to the ERM, am I right?
Yes.
Yes.
So, Dr. Vinod, my question is, when we do this ERM peeling and ILM peeling, I think they have described it as EPMH, epiretinal proliferation associated with macular hole. And when it's a large hole, when we want to do an inverse peeling. So most of the time, along with this epiretinal proliferation, we all know that the ILM sticks to it and it comes off. Although the authors say that you have to first remove the epiretinal proliferation and then do the ILM peeling. So how will you manage in these cases? Will you stuff the epiretinal proliferation also if it's the hole size is more than 800 or 1000 microns in diameter?
You're talking about full thickness macular holes or lamellar?
Yes, full thickness macular hole. Full thickness macular hole.
See, one thing is again very clear in the literature that whenever you have epiretinal proliferation in association with full thickness macular holes, even if you are able to close the macular holes, when I say close, type 1 macular hole, the outer layers, that is EZ and ELM, do not tend to close, and the visual results are relatively poor. So, second question, coming back to your question, when you talk about peeling, so we really don't know. All you can do is once you have peeled the epiretinal tissue, and again, as I said, you do not want to peel it completely off the macular hole. You would like to be you will like that this is sticking to the edge of the hole when you have peeled. Once you have peeled the epiretinal component, you can stain again and you can see if ILM is there, you can peel off, and at least you can peel off the ILM up to the arcade so that even if you are not sure about the central part, you have removed the traction from the outer part of the macula.
Right.
Yeah, I'd just like to add one quick comment, one observation that, this LHEP, as the name suggests, this is more often commonly seen with lamellar holes than macular holes. So the entire pathogenic process is very different. It's like alluding to what he was saying, this traction component and this, degenerative component. So one should not, put it in that universal macular hole component. We see macular holes far more often or than lamellar holes. And I think the incidence of LHEP is about 3 times as much in lamellar holes than in macular holes. It's also been reported in vitreomacular traction, where there is no breach. So there is a completely different pathogenic underlying process. I think we should keep that in mind. The rest of the points, I think Vinod has already mentioned.
I think you've said it very correctly. The incidence is much more in LHEP, but lamellar holes, but it is seen in up to 10% of the full thickness macular holes. In fact, one of the study has shown that whenever you get a macular hole, full thickness macular hole in the setting of retinitis pigmentosa, they are almost always associated with the LHEP as well. So we really don't know as of now if LHEP is a good enough terminology.
Thank you, doctors, for the